Right now, someone could be watching you. Maybe they are, maybe they are not. But the moment you even suspect it, something shifts. Your posture changes, your pace quickens. You look busier than you did 5 seconds ago. And here is the strange part. You did not decide to do any of that. It happened automatically. This is not a personality quirk. It is not insecurity or self-consciousness. It is one of the most powerful and invisible forces shaping human behavior, and it has been running in the background of your life since the day you were born. Economists, psychologists, and sociologists have studied it for over a century, and what they found is far stranger than anyone expected. You do not just work harder when someone is watching, you become a different person. In 1908, a psychologist named Norman Triplet published one of the first controlled experiments in social psychology. He had noticed something odd at bicycle races. Cyclists who competed against others were faster than cyclists who raced against the clock alone. Same distance, same road, same rider, but the presence of another person changed the outcome. Triplet replicated the effect in a laboratory with children winding fishing reels and found the same result. The mere presence of another person made people perform faster. He called it social facilitation. That was the beginning, but it was only the surface. The deeper question was why, and the answer, it turns out, reaches all the way down into the wiring of your nervous system. When you believe you are being observed, your body enters a mild state of physiological arousal. Your heart rate nudges upward, your attention narrows. Your brain releases a small flood of norepinephrine, the same neurochemical involved in the fight or flight response, but in a much quieter dose. You become, in a very literal biological sense, more alert. This arousal has a predictable effect on performance. For tasks you already know how to do, the kind of work that is routine, familiar, or well-practiced, heightened arousal makes you faster and more accurate. The observation acts like a shot of mild adrenaline applied to a skill that is already there. But for tasks that are new, complex, or that require careful, deliberate thought, the same arousal works against you. It makes you worse. You rush, you skip steps, you default to habit when the situation actually demands fresh thinking. The psychologist Robert Ziong formalized this in 1965 with a theory that unified decades of conflicting data. The presence of others enhances the dominant response, meaning whatever behavior is most automatic and rehearsed for you in that moment. If the dominant response is correct, you look brilliant under observation. If the dominant response is wrong, you look like you are falling apart. This is why you can parallel park perfectly when no one is watching, and then fumble with the wheel the moment someone stops to stare. But the effect does not stop at performance. It goes much further into the choices you make, the risks you take, and how much effort you believe is worth giving. In the 1970s, economist Gary Becker was developing a theory of human behavior that would eventually win him a Nobel Prize. His framework was simple and radical. People, Becker argued, respond to incentives, not just financial ones, social ones. The cost of being seen doing something shameful is itself an economic cost, and the reward of being seen doing something admirable is itself an economic reward. Reputation is a currency. Observation is the mechanism that makes that currency real. Think about the last time you donated money to something. If you did it online, alone, in the quiet of your home, the amount you gave was likely different than what you would have given if you were handing cash to a collector in front of a crowd. Studies consistently show that donation amounts rise when giving is visible, not because people become more generous, but because the social payoff of being seen as generous activates the same reward circuits in your brain as the donation itself. You are not being cynical. Your brain is being rational, in its own way. It is calculating a full ledger of costs and benefits that includes what other people will think. This is the Hawthorne Effect, named after a series of famous industrial studies conducted at the Hawthorne Works factory in Illinois during the 1920s and 1930s. Researchers led by Elton Mayo found that workers became more productive whenever changes were made to their environment: better lighting, different risk schedules, rearranged workstations. But the productivity gains did not last, and they didn't seem to depend on which change was made. Eventually, researchers concluded that the workers were responding not to the changes themselves, but to the act of being studied. The knowledge that someone was watching, measuring, and paying attention was enough to shift behavior. The original Hawthorne data has been reanalyzed and debated for decades. Economists Stephen Levitt and John List revisited the original data in 2011 and found the effect was real, though more nuanced than the original interpretation suggested. It was strongest on days when supervisors were present and diminished when they were not. Observation and effort were directly linked. The moment the watchers left, the extra effort quietly dissolved. Your ancestors understood this without any research. Every society in human history has built observation into its social structure. Public squares, village councils, religious confession, the village gossip who remembered everything and told everyone. These were not accidents. They were technologies of accountability, systems designed to maintain the fiction, or sometimes the reality, that someone is always watching.
The fiction matters as much as the reality, maybe more. In a 2010 study published by the journal Evolution and Human Behavior, researchers Nina Mazar, An Amir, and Dan Ariely found that people were significantly less likely to cheat on a task when they believed their behavior could be traced, even when there was no actual mechanism to catch them. The belief alone was enough. Your brain doesn't need the watcher to be real, it needs the possibility of the watcher to be real. This is why a picture of a pair of eyes mounted above an office coffee station reduced the rate of unpaid cups by nearly 3 times in a study conducted at Newcastle University by Melissa Bateson and colleagues in 2006. No camera, no enforcement, just 2 printed eyes on a piece of paper. The ancient circuitry that evolved to detect social scrutiny could not distinguish between a real gaze and a symbolic one. You are walking around with a surveillance system installed in your brain. It is always scanning for the possibility of observation, and when it detects it, real or implied, it changes your behavior before you have consciously decided to change anything at all. Now here is where it gets interesting, because this system does not just affect how hard you work, it affects who you work for. Research by economist Ernst Fair and his colleagues on public goods and cooperation found that people contribute more to shared resources when their contributions are visible to others. In anonymous conditions, free riding is rampant. People take from the common pool and give little back. The moment contributions are made visible, even slightly, cooperation surges. The social cost of being seen as a free rider is powerful enough to change economic outcomes at scale. Cities, companies, and governments have quietly weaponized this. Energy companies that show you how your electricity use compares to your neighbors, a tactic pioneered by Opower and studied by economist Hunt Alcott, consistently reduce consumption by around 2% on average. That sounds small. Multiplied across millions of households, it is the equivalent of building new power plants. Not because of price signals, not because of fines, because you do not want to be the one whose bar on the chart is taller than everyone else on the block. You never opted into that system. You were enrolled the moment you became a social creature, which was the moment you were born. But here is the thing you may not have considered. This ancient mechanism, this deep sensitivity to observation, exists in you for a reason. It is not a flaw. It is not manipulation. It served your ancestors extraordinarily well for tens of thousands of years in small, tight-knit communities where reputation was survival. Being seen as a reliable member of the group meant you got fed, protected, and included. Being seen as a shirker or a cheat meant exile. And exile, in a world of predators and harsh winters, meant death. The stakes are not the same anymore, but the circuitry is identical. So the next time you feel yourself sitting up straighter, working a little faster, choosing the more respectable option when someone might be looking, you are not performing. You are running software written over 100,000 years ago for a world that no longer exists and a body that has not yet received the update. Someone is always watching, even when they are not. And deep inside the oldest parts of your brain, that distinction barely matters at all.